Okay, well, sometimes I like to have a little bit of fun on this channel, especially in the off season, and that's what I'm going to be doing with this video. These are going to be 10 rule changes that I think would help the NFL that absolutely not in a million years would ever get adopted by the NFL. Actually, a couple of these I could see maybe happening someday, but I think they're mostly just fun, but still some interesting thought experiment. It's an interesting thought experiment. So yeah, let's get into the list. Let's start off with, these are in no particular order. Let's start off with the first. First, timeouts don't expire at the half. So what do I mean? Well, as we all know, the way football works is you get 3 timeouts in the first half, and then you get 3 timeouts in the second half. If you use all 3 timeouts in the first half, you have 3 to start the second half. If you use none of your timeouts in the first half, you have 3 to start the second half. I say get rid of that. You have 6. It's like basketball. You have 6 throughout the whole game, and if you want to use them early, then you can use them early. If you want to save them for later, you can save them for later. I think this would be interesting for a couple of different reasons. First, I think it would create for some really fascinating strategy at the end of the half. Do you want to burn a timeout if there's maybe you're going to get the ball left with like 25 seconds? Is it worth it to try and burn a timeout and then try to use some of your timeouts to see if you can get points? Or are you better off saving those timeouts because maybe you'll need them at the end of the game in a wind down the clock situation? This could also work because in that situation where it is a wind down the clock situation and a team has extra timeouts, this could actually make the game more fascinating, as instead of, trying to kill off the last 2 timeouts in the last 2 minutes of the clock, maybe you have to try and kill off 6 timeouts or I guess 5 timeouts and the remaining 2 minutes of the clock. That would be a lot more difficult, right? So I think it could create for some more interesting end game scenarios. I'd also be open to just like you get 3 bonus kind of clock stoppages in the second half. These aren't necessarily full timeouts. You don't have the commercial break, but it could still create that same effect where it'd be harder to run out the clock at the end of the game, allowing for more comebacks to happen. My next dumb rule that I think would help is very much in line with that kind of idea of, if, I like football, I like seeing comebacks feel possible, and it is kind of annoying when you're watching a game and a team is up 10 points and you just know that, okay, well, this game is over. Not really a lot that, the team can do. They're driving to try and see if they can score, but there's a minute 30 left. They don't have any timeouts. Well, what if there is a way you can go for a 5-point conversion instead of just the 2-point conversion? It doesn't have to be 5. We can workshop the exact point totals, but maybe in this scenario where a team is down 10, you still have a reason to watch now because they can still, in theory, get the 11-point play and win the game in regulation. The way it would work is it would just be a pure Hail Mary, where you snap the ball at your opponent's 45-yard line and you try for a Hail Mary. So it's the odds of it working are very slim. You would never do this unless you absolutely had to at the end of the game. That's kind of the idea, but it still gives you a reason to watch. Again, for the NFL, I think they should like something like this because it should keep viewership up at the end of a game. People aren't turning the game off, and if it's a playoff game, like, hey, you never know. What if the crazy happens? And that Hail Mary thing. Hey, Hail Marys are fun, right? Even when they don't work, which is usually, they're still a fun play to watch. So I think it would help, but again, obviously will never happen. Next up is one that's actually been proposed, so I shouldn't say this would never happen, but it's one I like, which is you get rid of the onside kick altogether. We've put too many rules in place to try and make it safer, and I'm all in favor of making the game safer, but because of that, the onside kick just never happens. So let's get rid of it altogether, and let's just add a 4th and 15 play, where if you choose as an offense, you don't have to kick the ball away. You can instead go for it on 4th and 15. Again, this is not a situation you would ever do unless it was desperation time, right? Unless you absolutely had to try and convert. So it's very similar to an onside kick. I believe the numbers around a 4th and 15 play are very similar to what the onside kick numbers used to be. But hey, you're now getting to see the star players try and make one more play. At the end of a game, do you want to see, a team kick it to a special teamer you've never heard the name of and hope that special teamer makes a mistake? Or do you want to see Patrick Mahomes trying to see if he can figure something out? I want to see the second one. So for me, I would like to do this. And again, it makes comebacks feel more possible in this scenario. Okay, this next one's a little bit of a weird one, so you're going to have to hear me out here, but I'm going with a 2-point shootout to decide the coin toss in overtime. Now, the overtime rules have been getting tinkered with left and right. We had the situation of, let's have, one team has to score a touchdown to win the game on the first drive, but then teams started doing that too much, and that was an issue. What if we keep the rules that way? So forget about the fact that now, if you score an opening drive touchdown, the other team still gets a chance to possess it. We're not doing that anymore. You have to score a touchdown on the opening possession to end the game, on the first possession. Very similar to, it's what the rules have been, what the regular season rules were last year. That is the rules. But instead of using a coin toss to decide who possesses the ball first, it's a 2-point attempt shootout where you have back and forth. We'll do, each team gets 3 tries to see if they can, convert on the, 2-point attempt shootout, similar to how hockey works. If it's tied, you keep going until one wins, and then you give someone the ball, and then you go from there. I think this can kind of fix any issues and can make the overtime period more exciting while also not having it feel like it all just comes down to a coin toss. I kind of like that idea, but again, I know that this would never happen. It'd be fun though, I think. Next up is penalties can result in points. What do I mean by that? Well, technically there are penalties that can result in points right now, right? Like a holding penalty in the end zone when the quarterback has the ball in the end zone. That's a penalty that results in a safety. But what I am saying is when a team is at their own 9-yard line and there's a holding penalty that should be a 10-yard penalty, instead of it being half the distance to the goal and they get it at the 4.5, it just straight up results in a safety. That's how it works. Similar the other way around, where if there is a pass interference call in the end zone, that's a touchdown. If there is a personal foul at the goal line, well then that's a touchdown. Just let those points happen, right? I mean, it is kind of weird sometimes, especially in these goal line situations where like that, the Commanders-Eagles game when the Commanders kept committing penalties at the goal line. Just let them score. And I'd even be in favor of doing something where the first time there's a penalty, instead of it going straight into the end zone, it's stopped at the 1-yard line. But if there's another penalty, then it results in points to make it not quite as dramatic. But I don't know. The penalties are supposed to be penalties, right? 10 yards should be 10 yards no matter what those yards are. That's kind of how I view it. And again, I think it would make things more interesting. But, as I say, if all these totally would not happen. Next up is one I actually really would love to see them do. They never will, but I really would love this, which is Super Bowl, get rid of the neutral site. It's a cool idea, and it has been cool for a while, but it just becomes such an influencer thing and such a corporate thing. I've heard people who said they've gone and it's like the weirdest atmosphere. It's like you're in a boardroom watching, and maybe that's not true. Again, I've never been to a Super Bowl, so if you have been fortunate enough to go to one, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. But I definitely feel like on TV, you don't get that atmosphere that you get during a conference championship or a divisional round or even a regular season game, if we're being honest. Now, the Super Bowl is still going to be a huge deal, so because of this, you're going to, so last year the Chiefs were the team with the best record, it would have been in Arrowhead. You're still going to get the influencers going to Arrowhead, but at least it's easier and to talk yourself into going if you are a Chiefs fan in that scenario, right? So because of that, it's why I like it. So just give it to whichever team had the best record in the regular season. They are the team that gets the home. They get to be the home team. A workaround you could go with is just create certain sections that could be like supporter sections if you really like the neutral site thing, because maybe the NFL doesn't want snow games in the Super Bowl, right? They want to keep things warm weather. But you could at least do like supporter sections where maybe you even, make it easier for I don't know, season ticket holders are able to get those seats, something like that, to at least create some of the atmosphere, because it's the biggest game of the year. I'm fine with a neutral site, but it almost feels like it's just like quiet and not as exciting, which is definitely not what I'm as interested in. Next up, just an extra bye week. This is a simple one. This one's one we've talked about a lot. I don't really get why this hasn't happened. I think it's just a negotiation chip for the NFL that they'll eventually put forth, but it just makes total sense to do an extra bye week, right? I mean, you have an extra bye week, which essentially gives the NFL more revenue. It's a longer week of the season, more to talk about, more things going on. You just spread out the games a little bit more, and it keeps the players protected more. So I think the NFL wants to add an extra game, make it 18 games, and then they'll throw in the extra bye week as like a way to do it. But just give the extra bye week now. Like I think it'd be better. 3 more left. This one is a bit of a one that needs explaining. So allow players to be eligible to be in the Hall of Fame while they're playing. What I mean by this is not every player is eligible to be in the Hall of Fame, but you can start to become eligible if enough things happen. We'll say like, if you're an offensive or defensive player, if you win, let's say, multiple Offensive Player of the Year or Defensive Player of the Year awards. We can also say for quarterbacks, if you win some combination of, we'll say at least like 4 MVPs or Super Bowls or combined, so 2 MVPs, 2 Super Bowls would allow it. So it'd be really hard to get there, and very few players would. And then all that happens is you get into the voting, where maybe you wouldn't be able to be, vote. Maybe you wouldn't be voted in right away. But once you pass one of those thresholds, then you are eligible to potentially be in the Hall of Fame. Maybe you could also do like if you win enough All-Pros, then you're eligible, something like that. I just think that could be fun. Like it'd be cool if like Patrick Mahomes is already a Hall of Famer, like that's just already decided, and now he's still playing. I don't know if other people think that's stupid, but I think it could be fun and could make for a little bit of an interesting storyline going on during some of these things. So yeah, that's one of them. Also, I'm going with just changes to the award show in general. So quite frankly, I kind of like the idea of having an award show thing that they've been doing the day before the Super Bowl, right before the Super Bowl. That's a cool idea. I get why they want to do that, but I think we need some changes to be made. If this is going to be an actual award show, well, there needs to be more awards, first of all. So I would want to add a decent amount more awards to the NFL. So first, I think instead of announcing All-Pros well before this, let's announce the All-Pros during the ceremony. Let's just go through, maybe throughout the night, you then have, okay, these are, 5 more All-Pros, these are 5 more All-Pros. You can just do that constantly. That could be interesting. I also think that there should be some other just awards in general. Something like Offensive Lineman of the Year, Defensive Lineman of the Year, Weapon of the Year. So that's like either tight end or wide receiver or running back. You could do Defensive Back of the Year, Off-Ball Linebacker of the Year if you wanted to do that as well. Add some of those types of awards. Make it more fun, and hey, why not, right? That's interesting. You could say, oh, this person was a 3-time, defensive back of the year. Maybe they were never, good enough to win the defensive player of the year, but that's still something they can add to their resume, right? I also like the idea of just adding a playoff MVP for each conference. So this is the NFC playoff MVP and the AFC playoff MVP. Doesn't necessarily have to be someone who, is going to the Super Bowl, but probably usually will be, similar to how usually the Super Bowl MVP is the guy who won, is a guy who won the Super Bowl in that Super Bowl. So I think that could be interesting. And the one other change I would make to the ceremony is I would add what I would call the Johnny Unitas Trophy. And this goes to the best quarterback, right? Okay, give the best quarterback. And then what you do is you change the wording of the MVP to say this is not taking positional value into account. Or maybe try to not just give it to someone because of their positional value. Because as of right now, it's basically always going to go to a quarterback. And this would kind of create, similar to how in baseball, they have the Cy Young Award, which goes to the best pitcher, and then they have the MVP Award, which can go to the best pitcher, but that usually only happens if that pitcher had an exceptional season beyond just a really good, Cy Young worthy season. I want to create something similar to that with football. So now every kind of position gets their own awards, and then the MVP can just go to who was actually the most outstanding player instead of just the best quarterback every year. And finally, this is another dumb one, but these are all dumb ones, so why not end in a very dumb way? Centers are now eligible. Centers are eligible receivers. If they run out, then they essentially become wide receivers. They are now, you can't just go and hit somebody 5 yards down the field. That's still not allowed, but you can run out and run a route if you want to. You would almost never do this, but it could create some interesting trick plays and things of that dynamic, and Ben Johnson would certainly have fun with this, so it would be silly, but it would be kind of fun. So that is my 10th rule change that if I was in charge, I would implement, and I think you can very clearly see why I am not in charge with these ones, but I had some fun with them. I don't know if all of these would actually work, but let me know in the comments below. Are there any of these you agree with, any you disagree with, and what is maybe a dumb rule change that you think could fix the NFL or help the NFL? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from y'all, and of course, as always, thanks for watching.